Welcome to Section 2, WebDriver Basics. In this section, we are going to take a look at WebDriver architecture. I'll show you how to attach any browser. We'll follow that up with retrieving a web page. And lastly, we'll tie it all together and I'll show you how to perform actions on a web page using Python. Welcome to WebDriver architecture. In this video, we are going to take a look at a high-level overview of Selenium architecture. We'll discuss language bindings, drivers, and browsers. And lastly, we'll talk about how WebDriver automates a browser. So let's begin with a high-level overview of the WebDriver architecture. At one level, we have the language bindings. These are supplied in Python, Java, C#, Ruby, and more. On another level, we have the drivers, such as Chrome driver, Firefox driver, Safari driver, etc. And lastly, we have the browsers that we are trying to automate. These are the browsers that you're probably most familiar with, like Chrome, Firefox, Safari, IE, and more. The important thing to note is that the language bindings communicate with the drivers. The drivers then communicate with the browsers. And data is passed back and forth as JSON using HTTP requests. Let's talk about language bindings. Selenium supports multiple different languages. The most common ones are Python, Java, Ruby, C#, and more. Essentially, this allows us to write scripts in a given language to control WebDriver, thus automating a browser. With drivers, there is a separate driver for each browser. So for example, if you want to automate Chrome, you will use Chrome driver. A driver is essentially an HTTP server. This server communicates natively with the given browser. A major benefit of this approach is that the drivers abstract away complex internals and gives us a simple, easy-to-use API to write code in Python. With browsers, Selenium supports multiple browsers, like Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and more. Each browser has different native functionality, and different internal APIs can make things more complex in code. Fortunately, WebDriver provides an API to easily use the native functionality of each browser. So how does WebDriver automate a browser? Well, you can think of it as a simple three-step process. Step 1. The Python client sends the message to a driver. In step 2, the driver receives the message from the client and then makes an HTTP request to the desired browser. And in step 3, the browser's native functionality is then automated via commands from the driver.